You ever wondered, hey, how do I find a good accountant for my small business? Or how do I find a good lawyer for my small business? Well, they're similar in both ways. We're going to go through and over the next few minutes, we'll talk through those things. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. So when it comes to finding a great attorney or a great accountant, well, there's three primary things that we need to do. First, you have to have the willingness to make sure that you're interviewing them and realizing that these people are going to work for you. They may have fancier offices, they may have fancier suits and use bigger words, but the reality is they're going to work for you. So first off, we're going to talk about interview, that you have to be willing to interview and interview a few of them. The second is in that interview, we're going to have to talk about questions. And what are the questions you need to ask to make sure that you're comfortable that you're getting an expert in that space? Not just any space, but the space you're looking for. And then the third thing is this person going to be helpful in acting as a referral source in multiple different ways? So the three areas are: you willing to interview? What are the questions you need to ask? And three, will they be willing to be a referral source? So let's go through and talk about this. To start with, initially, when we're looking at bankers or attorneys, if you know other people in business, I would start there and ask, hey, who are you using? And 9 times out of 10, they will tell you. And a lot of times, the next question though is make sure you follow this up, because you would be amazed at how many people are working with somebody they don't like. Say, and do you like them? Now, when you ask that very simple question, make sure that you listen, because you can say, yeah, I like them. Okay, why? Well, you know what? Their communication is really good, and that's important to me. Or, boy, they're experts and they saved me a lot of money last year. Or, they gave me some referrals. Or maybe they don't talk down to me, whatever it is. But start talking with those. And one of the things that we hit in my book, The Aspiring Solopreneur, and that we do on the online courses at theaspiringsolopreneur.com, is we go through and we help people define those questions. But ideally, when you're starting your small business or solopreneur gig, is how do you go about creating that amazing team of advisors that you can surround yourself with, that you can lean on, that you can trust, and you know are going to call you out, but you can get the advice you need to go in the right direction. You're still ultimately accountable, but surrounding yourself with these people is important. And the reality is most of the people you're going to run into, from a banker, well, excluding the banker, but the attorney, the accountant, marketing, insurance, they're likely small business people themselves, and they're going to know other people. So they're going to understand that. And traditionally, they're going to be willing to invest at least 30 minutes to an hour. If you have an attorney that says, yeah, you can come in, but I'm going to charge you, say, hey, thank you, we're going to pass. That person is going to hit the clock every time you talk to them. I had an attorney once. He was a good attorney, but pain in the ass. And he actually had a chess clock. And every time I would call him, he would hit that chess clock, and he charged me by the minute. That's his prerogative, but it's also my prerogative to choose not to continue to work with him. So first off, we want to start finding other referral sources for that. So if we already talked with a banker, you already talked with an accountant, ask about the lawyer. The lawyer, what about the accountant? There's small communities, particularly when it comes in the small business areas, that can help make suggestions of who you should go to. Now, just as much as there are suggestions of where you could go, they may suggest, maybe not in so many words, but in their body language, where you shouldn't go. Hey, I'm thinking of going over to see Jackie so-and-so at this place. What do you think? Okay. But boy, your radar better go up on that. Holy smokes, something's going on there. Now, maybe they had a personal beef, or maybe they aren't the right person. So let's talk high level about accountants and attorneys. Both accountants and attorneys, for the layperson, oh, that person's an accountant. Okay, what kind of accountant? And the reality is there's hundreds of types of accountants. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of types of attorneys. So making sure that somebody is there that you're talking with is an expert in small business has got to be one of the first questions you start asking. Now, if you don't have any referrals, you're starting from scratch, go to your insurance person, or if need be, go online, Google small business, start it with small business or entrepreneur focused, but use those words. Because unfortunately, particularly with accountants and more so with attorneys, there's a fair amount of ego involved. And if you go to your divorce attorney to help you set up your business or do business advice, does it mean they can't do it? No, it doesn't. It means that they can, but that's not their wheelhouse. And they're actually going to have to go and learn over and over and over how to do what you're asking them to do. And I hate to say it, but 9 times out of 10, it's marginal in the output. I used to sell businesses, and I was a business intermediary for years and small business broker. And that was one of the first questions I would always ask, because this was when I lived in Denver, and there were only about 4 attorneys who were really good at business transitions, actually orchestrating the documentation and creating for business sales. And I can't tell you the number of times I would end up with another attorney on the other side, and I would be talking to them. I'm not an attorney, talking to somebody, and they'd be like, "Well, we don't like this point." And I'm like, "Well, the reality is that statute that says, and that's required by law, we have to do that." Oh, and then they'd go research it, but they're paying for that time. So please look at the expertise first. If you get a great attorney who's a great small business attorney and they cost $400 an hour and you can find somebody for $150 an hour, that $400 an hour attorney could actually end up being much, much cheaper. Because if they can do it in 15 minutes versus the 150 is going to be 3 hours. So this is where you have to have the curiosity to be able to ask those questions. So stepping back and realizing that whether it's an accountant, any of the people on your board of advisors, they're working for you. And one of the ways that you can start this is with these conversations, is sit down with them and say, look, I'm looking at starting a small business. I'm looking to create a long-term relationship with my accountant, my banker, my attorney. I would love to talk to you and get your feedback and see if maybe we're a fit. You're looking for fit. Now, if this person sits there and you're like, oh God, yeah, well, I will, but I'm gonna charge you for it. No, don't do that. Because that person isn't willing to invest in the relationship. If that person is, well, sit down, son, and I'll tell you what you need to do. Well, there may be some value in that, but if you challenge them and they get upset, or you say, what does that word mean? I don't understand that. Can you help me understand what you're meaning there? I'm like, well, geez, everybody knows this. No, their job, you are interviewing them to work for you. It may be in a contract relationship, but you're interviewing them to see if we're going to be a good fit. And part of it is going to be around education. So the questions you ask are going to help you understand, is this person going to educate me better in the law, in accounting, in those areas, so I make sure that I get comfortable. Now, with accountants and attorneys, you're going to have a conversation around risk and how much you're willing to have, and ask where they are. If you happen to be somebody who's like super risk adverse, say, no, we're not going to hide anything. We're not going to do anything. And it shouldn't say hide. Never hide anything from the IRS. Declare everything. Never hide anything. Hiding stuff means fraud. You go to jail. Don't ever do that. I'm not giving legal advice, by the way. But the point is make sure that you guys are on the same page. If somebody says, yeah, no, I'm okay with a little gray area. We won't do anything that's against the law. I won't do that. And you shouldn't hire somebody who says they would. But say, no, we're okay with that. Or say, look, I want to understand what the risk is. We'll talk through it, and then together we'll make a decision. But I'll make the decision on where we should go. Okay, that seems reasonable. If you have somebody and you're more risk tolerant, and they're like, no, we never do any of those things, they're going to drive you nuts, and it won't be a long-term relationship. So some of the questions are going to be around that tolerance piece. The biggest question, though, is help me understand, how much experience do you have with businesses like mine? And if they say, you know, I've got 15 of them right now, they're probably going to have a pretty good idea what they're doing. And not only that, they're going to be able to actually help maybe introduce you to other people, but also help you look for other things. What should I be aware of that I'm not? Yeah, do you know, they may say, do you realize all these compliance pieces around this? Some people I work with, and they didn't realize that 20% of their bottom line's got to go to compliance fees to pay for insurance and these things. And I can hook you up with an insurance person. Great. That person is helping you become better because they have a vested, forgot the word. It matters that you're successful. They want you to be successful in the long run because it's going to make them more successful. If you find an attorney and a bookkeeper and accountant and people like that around you, fantastic. So for me, when it comes to the accountant, I'm horribly dyslexic. And I've got 6 companies, but you want me to do the books, and holy smokes, that's just going to be a shit show. So one of the questions I ask is, do you have bookkeepers that you can refer to me that I can contract with? Yeah, great. How many companies like mine do you work with? A bunch of these. Great. What is the average size of your client? That's going to be sweet spot right where I am. Do you work with people outside of it? Yeah, we do, but we try not to. We prefer to only work with small business people because then we know those regulations really well. Those are the kinds of questions combined with, does this person share your values? Do they look at things in a similar light that you do? Man, those things right there, when you start having that feeling, you're going to know if you have the right person. Now, with attorneys, you don't see attorneys nearly as much as accountants. I actually think accountants are one of the cornerstone, if not the cornerstone, for your team of advisors. But you can ask, hey, Miss Accountant, who would you recommend as an attorney, or vice versa? Sometimes the big firms will say, oh yes, we have everything you need under one roof. They do, and they have really fancy offices, and they have billing quotas and hour quotas that they have to meet. And a lot of times that's really expensive. Sometimes that's a challenge. Sometimes you may be better off in the smaller mom and pop, maybe doesn't have the fanciest office on the planet, but it's a smaller shop, and you go in and it's like, yeah, you know what, I only work with small businesses. Yeah, I have 14 companies like yours. Yes, I know these people over there. I think it's an okay business, but if you look at it from this perspective, they may have different suggestions. The point is at that point, you're then having a collaborator, an advisor. And then when you have a relationship that you can ask questions, what do you think? What am I missing? It becomes their obligation to help you become successful. And that has huge, huge, huge value. So it comes down to that fit. And again, I personally like typically smaller firms, even mom and pop type firms, for those areas. Maybe more than one person because if somebody gets sick or you need help. Now, another thing that you need to make sure you're clear on is help me understand how you guys are communicating. When do those things go? How are you proactive? Are you proactive? Are you reactive? Where's that at? Meaning, how do I know, are you going to call me in advance or do I have to call you for annual stuff or compliance things or any of these things? It's like, no, we can handle all those. And then as always, if you learn nothing from all the videos on this channel, some very simple questions are, hey, what else should I be asking that I'm not? If you were in my shoes, what would you be doing? How would you look at this different? Do I have any blind spots? And then also, is there anybody that you think that I should be meeting? Is there somebody that you'd like to introduce me to or that you think would be helpful? Now, in some cases, it may be, oh my God, that's my competition. But if you're getting a referral from the bank or from your attorney or from your accountant, you're good. And be able to say, I'll be respectful and ask these questions to help learn how to do this better. In fact, you may even find out and get some contracts out of that. I've seen that happen more than once. But you may also say, what are the other blind spots? And this is where, when you start building your business plan, which we've talked about on this channel, again, please check out the other videos, you'll start to fill in those gaps to where it becomes a no-brainer. Now remember, you haven't spent a dime yet. You've invested your time, you're getting a lot smarter, you're filling in the roadmap of where it is and how you want to go, but maybe you're pivoting, and maybe your accountant or your attorney suggests in a different direction. Maybe some of their advice isn't that good. It's okay. It's up to you to choose what you take from it. And then lastly, you may ask, do you know anybody who could be using my services? Is there anybody you'd introduce me to that I could talk to or even get their feedback from. And we talk about this in the market analysis video. But it helps people to start understanding, can we get an introduction to those people, and you can learn, is my idea or product or service good, or what can I do to be improving it? But just as a reminder, when it comes down to how do we find that good accountant for our small business, or how do we find that good attorney for our small business, it really comes down to A, our willingness to interview and ask and be curious. 2, make sure that we ask those questions and find out, is this person really a good fit for us, and are they an expert in the field and direction we're looking for? And 3, are they going to act as a connection source? So when you start to do this, you can see that eventually the idea of saying, yeah, you know what, I'm ready to leave my job and go do this new gig, at a certain point it's going to become a no-brainer and you'll be successful. So if you enjoyed this, we would love it if you'd subscribe, forward on, make any comments, love to hear from you. Keep smiling.